This week, we're beginning with Wicked, of course, what else? Which tells the story of Elphaba, a strange and peculiar student who travels to Shiz University in Oz to begin her studies, starring Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande, based on the wickedly successful musical of the same name. Now, Reuben, we went to see this together.
We did.
And I think I could sense your admiration for the film, as you may have been able to sense mine, but please tell me more about it.
Yes, was it the fact that I gave it a round of applause at the end that gave it away?
I joined in, so it's absolutely fine.
I really, really enjoyed this film. I felt like I was at the theatre. You know, it gave me all of those good endorphins that you get when you watch a fantastic musical. I'm, really intrigued about this film. It's obviously part one of two. They're adapting the stage musical, which is 2.5 hours in length, into what will be a 5-hour long film, two-parter. But honestly, the time flew by, and I just spent the whole time honestly beaming at the screen. I laughed, I cried. I marveled at the cinematic wizardry, pun intended, on display. I thought it was fantastic. And the key to it is the two most charismatic people on the planet, as you mentioned, Cynthia Erivo as Elphaba and Ariana Grande as Glinda, who of course we're familiar with from The Wizard of Oz. I thought that this was a really good prequel, and I had seen the stage play, but I thought it translated fantastically to the screen. There's something about the world of Oz that is inherently cinematic, obviously, because that's the way that we've kind of really enjoyed it for the last, 80 years since the original came out. And I was really, really sort of sucked into this world of romance and magic and just amazing images. Like the landscapes in this film are sensational. So I had a fantastic time.
This film was spectacular.
Spectacular.
And I went in with sort of gauged. I was coming with a sort of soft, wanting it to be brilliant.
Yeah.
My experience of Wicked, I haven't seen the stage show because my family always went without me. If you're watching, I am judging you for that. But I have been so aware of this musical. My sister is a super ultra mega fan. And so I'd hear the score through my sister's bedroom wall all the time. So I know the music. I know the lyrics. I know it so well. It's ingrained in, I think, my family's DNA now, just by how much she appreciated it. And I went in being like, well, the trailers looked promising. And of course, and I wasn't skeptical about any of the performers that they'd hired to be in the film. I thought, well, these are all great choices. Cynthia Erivo, I think she won awards for The Color Purple on stage. Ariana Grande obviously began in theatre and then became the super ultra mega star that she did. And you're right, those performances are stellar. Yeah. Interstellar. I couldn't take my eyes off either of them when they were both on screen. They were both just electric on the screen, as were everyone else. That is my main point about the film. The film really is held up and supported by these fabulous performances. Not only do you have charisma, chemistry, but you also have people who can sing. And they could sing the house down. Yeah. Ariana Grande can not only be a pop star, but she has this beautiful operatic voice. And when Cynthia Erivo opens her mouth to sing The Wizard and I, that's when I locked into the movie. Yes. It got me. It got me. And I was so engaged. Oh, I loved it. And Jonathan Bailey, gosh, red under the collar.
I genuinely, the great thing about his performance is everyone in the film fancies the pants off him, and in every shot there are just people sort of almost swooning. It's really, really brilliantly cast. I think they've done a tremendous job with that. I think in awards season we're going to see some appearances from the Wicked cast. I sort of think Ariana Grande is definitely getting a good shot at Best Supporting Actress. I just thought Ariana Grande in particular was brilliant. I've actually watched a lot of Victorious. I think she's phenomenal in that show.
I'm an iCarly person, I must say myself.
But she is really remarkable in this. And in many ways, I think she gets more of a fun role than Cynthia Erivo. Almost a bit like with Barbie last year, you sense that Ariana Grande is having a ridiculous amount of fun with the role. And when she gets to do scenes like Popular, I just thought, really inventively done. The screen is just sort of exploding with pink light, and there's, there's sort of drapery flowing across the camera lens. It's just really, really slickly done. And she's able to lean into that kind of Regina George, Mean Girls energy that she does so well. And I also thought that Jeff Goldblum in there as the wizard, like he's such a mercurial performer generally, it just suited him down to the ground. And I think, as we'll talk about later, I think the wizard is a really difficult character to get right. And to me, he had exactly the right kind of shades of darkness and light and whimsy that you want from actually, quite a mysterious, enigmatic character. I'd like to talk about the direction as well, because you'll be able to speak much more about this because you are a musical theatre person and music is your lifeblood. But I think that what he does in this film is really interesting because it isn't staged like a play, right? It's very, very cinematically shot. But I also think that he gives you, at times, enough of a kind of a wide view of things. You can appreciate the choreography. You can appreciate, the incredibly intricate sort of detailing and dance performances that are going on. It makes the world feel really well-rounded, and you buy into the illusion of the musical, which I think when you've got something that balances dialogue scenes and singing scenes, sometimes can be a little bit difficult, the switch between those. I thought it was really an impressive feat of direction.
Now, yes, I thought that was something that I was happy when watching through the film, that got even better the way they did the musical numbers.
I would agree, actually, that the opening section, No One Mourns the Wicked, I thought was actually not particularly...
I would go to say it's a weak opening.
I agree.
And that comes into another point, which I may discuss a little bit more later, is that the actual mixing of the music throughout the film is a bit spotty. For the lead solo songs, it's really well done.
Yeah.
But for the opening, it's really poor, in my opinion. Like, those blasting fanfare is undermixed.
I agree.
And it's got this wonderful opening, sweeping, cinematic shot of flying monkeys flying through the windows.
It's a oneer, I think,
Oh,
isn't it?
it's a brilliant shot, but it takes away from Stephen Schwartz's brilliant overture. And the singing is kind of undermixed, and it's sort of in the show and on the original album, it's a big chorus number, but it's now been given even more individual parts, so it just feels a bit thin. And then it's also not filmed very kinetically. However, as you said, throughout the film, it gets to this beautiful kineticism, this beautiful chopping and great editing around these musical numbers. What is this feeling or loathing, whatever it's you want to call it? That is edited really well.
I love that
split screens, the way it's edited so snappily, but brilliant. And then dancing through life sequence, the whole extended sequence, including the dialogue, including all the emotional beats. And they've taken a little bit of the music out, but not all of it. And that's why I really appreciate the two parts, because it does enable you to enjoy and watch the entire musical score in its full, wicked, and wonderful glory. And I really do appreciate the direction because the performances are so strong.
Yes.
And that comes down to not only picking the right people, but also the right way that this could go. And there's good bits of comedy that don't feel labored. They're
I agree.
dotted in there. And you could say maybe a bit gratuitous in places with like Bowen Yang's character, but I had no problem with it.
Oh, I totally
No
agree.
problem. I like the little side characters.
I loved meeting these characters, and I was so thoroughly charmed. And that's properly magic. We've talked recently about some films that we felt were lacking a bit of spark. My goodness, this film has spark in shed loads.
Oh, in droves.
It is so much fun. If I have one major bugbear, I think that the visual stylings of it are sometimes a little flat.
Same.
It's
exactly
a
the
little
same.
drab at times. And I mentioned the colours, the pink in the popular sequence. That really stood out to me because it is a rare moment when the screen is really saturated. Because at other points, it just feels like they've dialed it down a little bit. It's almost like it's almost in log,
Yeah, I thought the color grade was poor.
Yeah.
Like, genuinely, and that's what, going through all these movies, and there's one exception, but everything else has this vibrant oversaturation. But that's what you expect, because we're going to talk about the 1939 film. But what is the most iconic shot from that film?
Yeah.
It's the transition from sepia into marvelous Technicolor.
Yeah.
And this film, you watch it and you're like, okay. I think the staging's brilliant. I think the choreography is spectacular.
Yes.
It's got that Greatest Showman stomping the ground kind of
It does.
typical dancing
Yes.
that seems to be the fashion with musical film at the moment. But yes, the color grade is, in my opinion, a bit pitiful.
No, I
because
agree.
whether they kind of push it to in the second one to sort of be a bit darker, a bit more intense with the more intense music and the more intense story that it follows through. I don't know, but it is a little drab, as you said. I do agree wholeheartedly. I thought that little dance sequence they do in complete silence between Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande is brilliant.
I
because
love that.
It's
I
non-verbal.
cried in that scene because it was so tender.
It's perfect filmmaking, because you're like, I understand with the performances, with the way they're doing it, exactly what happens. And then also there's a really great moment between Jonathan Bailey and Cynthia Erivo's character later in the film. And I think I would give it the chance to just use some more of those moments. You've got this excellent cast, and you've got these really deep emotions of this idea of betrayal, this idea of character assassination, this idea of abuse, and all these deep, dark themes and motifs that run through the entire Wizard of Oz film franchise.
Absolutely.
I'm here for it.
Yeah.
I'm fully in, and I'll go, and I'm sure there'll be back-to-back screenings of part one. If I go in after watching part one, which does absolutely end with a brilliant rendition of Defying Gravity, which is action-packed, and the action's great, and the two of them are selling it so well, and I'm just like, well, I'll put up with a slightly bleaker second half, and I don't really mind, because this one was so good. It captured all those moments, and now I want to see how it ends. So I'm definitely going to see it no matter what.
I completely agree, and I'm glad that we're kind of ending on Defying Gravity, because I just thought that sequence was brilliantly staged. The way that they really extend it, actually. There's a lot of action happening in between parts of the song, but it comes together into this sort of just rapturously all overwhelming sequence where, obviously, I mean, we know what happens. Elphaba flies, and it was properly magnificent cinema, blockbuster cinema, and you wanted to cheer, because it was so just rapturous. I can't wait to watch it again.
Oh, absolutely.
And have that experience.
I think you'll agree with me that I think we've both been changed for the better.
I love that.